Welcome to the Stoppage Time edition of the Pitch to Pro podcast. This is a highlight reel of some of the best moments from the show so far, and every other week we will be bringing you a special 5 to 7 minute segment featuring the best stories, tales, and moments of the podcast. I think that all of the great crests around the world, in different clubs around the world, in different leagues, they connect back to the community. And that has to be, I think, that's so important of any good crest or badge, is it has to be representative and connected to some of the pieces that make that community and area special and great. And that needs to be part of the club itself and the ethos and, its mission, vision, values. So I think if you've gotten the mission, vision, values right and connected to the area, then that should hopefully translate over to the badge as well and the crest. And then obviously there's the design elements. Okay. So you have the overall design. What shape is it? Is it the circular badge is now pretty popular, in some different, leagues and clubs and teams. Traditional crest or shield shape, again, kind of that homage to more traditional kind of coats of arms, if you will. That's where that history comes in to play a little bit there. And then what colors? You have certain colors mean certain things. Your warmer colors, your reds, your oranges, your yellows, they're a little bit more adventurous, aggressive, domineering, hopeful a little bit with the yellows and, sunshine and that kind of thing. Or some of your cooler colors like blues are really, into like loyalty and, greens. A lot of times playing into nature and those kinds of themes. Pink is a little more playful, like Miami and Inter Miami and what they've done. I think David Beckham's one of the few that could pull off a pink kit for his club. But they do it well. They pull it off nicely. So anyway, those are and then you get into symbols a little bit too. Different animals have different meaning. Whether you go realistic animal or sometimes there's folklore in the area. I can say this, with example, we just talked about Inter Miami. They have the white storks there that are really popular in Southern Florida. So anyway, you guys get the picture. Symbols, colors, design, they all kind of come together and again, tell that story and make a holistic, conversation around what does the badge and crest stand for. So for me, those are some of the main elements. Again, I think, people can make arguments for others, but I think that is pretty well encompassing. All right, guys, we've talked a little bit in terms of the history of the crests of the world and why are they called crest badges? How did they come to be? We also talked about some of the key tenets of what makes a good crest. And so what I think now is a good thing to kind of jump into is what I've done is I've put together a compilation of the top 5 leagues in Europe from Spain, England, Germany, France, and Italy, and what are the most well-known clubs within that league that the badges or the crests would be well-known, and let's kind of take a look at them. Again, I think, there's a ton of different research out there, a lot of different resources, and these are certainly not going to be all-encompassing in terms of a breakdown on what they mean, but it'll give you guys a good idea of what kind of goes into these crests from some of the biggest clubs in the world, right? So let's jump into it. So first up, we've got Real Madrid, probably the most well-known and most supported club in the world, based on at least the metrics that, are current and what I've seen. So they have a couple of different elements here. And the other thing that I didn't mention previously is crests change a lot over time, especially from clubs that have been around for more than 100 plus years. And so, each of the clubs that I'm about to show you has gone through several different iterations over their history. And so it's kind of hard to piece together their meanings. They keep some elements of some in the past, and then they create new ones and, meanings will morph. So again, take this with a grain of salt, but it's an attempt to try to show you guys what some of these things mean. So Real Madrid. In Spanish, Real means royal. There you go. You've got the crown atop, signifying the royalty. And this was actually that denotation or that proclamation or patronage to be able to use Real Madrid. before that point, they were they went by MCF in the logo, which is still a part of the logo today, which was Madrid Club de Futbol, or in English, Madrid Football Club. And so that's why you see MCF in the center of the logo. They're still a part of the logo. That was actually one of the first logo iterations and crest iterations of Real Madrid, was just kind of an MCF, kind of put together there. And so again, I talked about that in the early days. That's how a lot of those came together, but it's still represented within the club today. Real Madrid are famous for their all-white kind of home kits, and throughout their history, that's been very, very consistent, with very few years where they've deviated from that. And it symbolizes that purity, that royalty, again, kind of playing into that motif of the club. And the blue band was originally purple, that kind of goes diagonally there across the crest. And it represents, the purple represented Castile, which is the region in which Madrid is situated. And it was changed to blue in 1997, which was the color of the original club's crest. So playing a little bit of patronage there back to that old crest. And so that's Real Madrid. We'll jump in here next, and let's take a look at Manchester United. As a diehard Liverpool fan, that I'm giving Man U any kind of love right now is hard, but it's okay. We got to be agnostic here. So Manchester United has gone through a lot of different iterations, and its current modern day crest doesn't really look like anything that it had in the beginning. The only thing that it's really kept is that merchant ship that you guys see at the top there of the shield inside the circle there, I guess is what you would call it, of the banners. And the merchant ship still means what it does today. Manchester was a powerhouse kind of port city, and was a massive part of global trade and commerce, especially during the Industrial Revolution. A lot, big factory town. And so that's what that denotes, is kind of that signal to the town's history of being this symbol of industry and global trade. You also have this kind of ornate feel about Manchester United, even in their modern day iteration of their logo. And this is a bit of a nod back to the history of the club. Even though it doesn't look necessarily like it, it's still ornate and kind of flourishy, if you will, for lack of a better term, with those banners and how it comes together. And that's because the club's original crest was this very ornate kind of coat of arms. And so it's a little bit of a nod to the history there. The Red Devil is actually something that came into play in the 1970s, and it was during the Matt Busby era in the 60s, where it was kind of a nickname that they became known for. They wanted to instill fear in their opponents, the way they flew around the pitch. And so that was just a nickname that kind of became adopted from, supporters in the club during that era. And they made it official as part of, a centerpiece, really, of the club and their crest in the 1970s. And then the red and yellow, again, kind of plays a little bit of tribute to the original crest, because those were the colors of the coat of arms in the crest where they were first featured. And so those are some of the elements there in terms of Manchester United. Thank you for joining us for this stoppage time special of the Pitch to Pro podcast. If you've enjoyed the conversation, you can click watch the full episode here. Be sure to tune in next Thursday for a new episode of the Pitch to Pro podcast, the official podcast of USL Arkansas. Available on YouTube, Instagram, and everywhere you get your podcasts.